What if I told you that the wealthiest man who ever lived left behind a literal, documented, step-by-step blueprint for building generational wealth? Not just wealth, but the kind that comes without striving yourself into the ground, without hustling into burnout, and without compromising who you are. We're talking about King Solomon, a man whose annual income was 666 talents of gold. That's over $1 billion a year in today's money. A man with trading ships, vineyards, real estate, international influence. A man that kings and queens literally traveled across the world just to sit at his feet. And here's what nobody talks about. He didn't chase the money chased him. And when I went deep into the scriptures, into Proverbs, into Ecclesiastes, into 1 Kings, I found 7 secrets. 7 principles Solomon operated by that most people today are completely sleeping on. Not theories, not motivational concepts, biblical laws of wealth that are still active and working right now. And when you understand them, the way you see money, build it, and protect it will never be the same. So if you're tired of working hard and still feeling behind, this video is for you. Let's get into the 7 secrets of King Solomon that will make you rich in silence. Secret number 1, wisdom before wealth. The first secret, and honestly I think this is the one that unlocks everything else, is this: wisdom before wealth. Now here's the story. In 1 Kings chapter 3, God appears to Solomon in a dream and says, and I need you to picture this moment. God literally says to him, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Can you imagine that? God shows up and says, ask for anything you want. And you know what most of us would have said? If we are being honest with ourselves, we would have said money. We would have said success. We would have said the business breakthrough, the investment opportunity, the clients, the revenue. We would have gone straight for the outcome. But Solomon said, give me wisdom. Give me a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. And God's response is so powerful. He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, he says, because you asked for this and not for long life or for wealth or for the death of your enemies, I will give you what you asked for, and I will also give you what you did not ask for, both wealth and honor. Did you catch that? Solomon asked for wisdom, and God said, because of that, I'm going to throw in the wealth too. This is the first secret, and it is the most countercultural thing I am going to say in this entire video. Stop chasing the money. Start chasing the mind that attracts it. See, here's what I had to learn the hard way in my own life. Before I built the business, before any of this happened, I was in a season where I was working incredibly hard and the money was not following. And I couldn't figure out why. And what I realized was that I was trying to build a 7-figure income on a 5-figure mindset. I was trying to get rich with poverty thinking. I was making decisions out of fear, out of scarcity, out of a lack of understanding of how money actually works. And no amount of effort was going to fix a wisdom problem. Because here's the thing. Bad judgment is expensive. Like financially expensive. How many costly mistakes have you made because you didn't have the right information? How much money have you lost or left on the table or spent impulsively because wisdom wasn't leading your financial decisions? How many opportunities did you miss because you didn't know what you didn't know? See, wisdom isn't just a spiritual concept. Wisdom is a financial asset. Better judgment leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. Better outcomes accumulate into wealth. It is literally that simple. Proverbs 4:7 says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. The principal thing, not a good thing, not one of the things, the principal thing, the first thing, the foundational thing. Everything else is built on top of this. So how do you build wisdom? You get in the Word. You study people who have done what you want to do. You invest in mentorship and education. You sit at the feet of those who are ahead of you, and you learn before you leap. You make decisions from knowledge and discernment, not from emotion and impulse. And when you do that, when you upgrade your thinking, you will find that your earning begins to upgrade with it. Because wealth follows wisdom. It did for Solomon, and it will for you. Secret number 2, diligence creates wealth. The second secret is one that people hear all the time, but very few people actually apply with the consistency that it requires. And that is this: diligence creates wealth. Proverbs 10:4 says, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." And Proverbs 13:11 says, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." Now I want you to hold that second verse for a second because it is so relevant to the world we are living in right now. We live in a culture that is obsessed with overnight success, viral moments, get rich quick, the one investment that 10x's overnight. And Solomon, literally the wealthiest man who ever lived, is in Scripture saying that is not how real wealth is built. Whoever gathers little by little, that is the pattern. This is what I call the compounding principle of diligence, and it works exactly like compound interest. The math of diligence is not linear, it is exponential, which means that your consistent, faithful daily effort doesn't just add, it multiplies. But only if you keep going long enough to hit the inflection point. And here's the thing that most people never understand about diligence. It is boring. It is unglamorous. It is showing up at the same thing, day after day, even when nothing seems to be happening, even when the results are not visible yet, even when your friends are not seeing it, the algorithm is not rewarding it yet, the business isn't popping yet. You know what I did before this business took off? Before any of this? I was showing up every single day. I was learning, I was building, I was practicing, I was preparing, and for a long time, nothing visible was happening. But diligence doesn't require visibility to work. It just requires continuation. Think about a farmer. A farmer plants a seed and then does not go out the next morning and dig it up to check if it sprouted. The farmer trusts the process. The farmer waters. The farmer tends. The farmer keeps showing up. And at harvest time, that small, consistent, faithful action produces fruit that is wildly disproportionate to any single day of effort. That is the secret of diligence. Small daily actions compound into significant financial outcomes. Not someday, not if you're lucky. Mathematically, inevitably, that is the law. Proverbs 21:5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty." As surely. That means it is not a maybe, it is not a perhaps, it is as sure as the sun rising. The plans of the diligent lead to profit. So the question I want you to sit with is this: what is the daily action in your financial life that you need to commit to with diligence? Not the big dramatic move, not the one-time effort. What is the small, repeatable, consistent thing that if you did it every single day would compound into something significant over the next 12 months? That is your assignment from secret number 2. Secret number 3, multiple income streams. Now this is the secret that I feel like people need tattooed on their foreheads in this economy. Are you ready? Secret number 3, multiple income streams. Ecclesiastes 11:2, written by Solomon himself, says this: "Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land." Can we just pause on that for a second? The wealthiest man who ever lived, a man who had more money than most modern billionaires, is in Scripture saying diversify. Don't put everything in one place. Spread it out. And he's not saying do this if you want to. He's saying do this because you don't know what's coming, because storms come, because markets shift, because things change. And the person who only has one stream when the stream dries up, they have nothing. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, I can barely manage one stream. How am I supposed to build multiple? And I hear you. I want to be real with you. You do not build all of your streams at once. That is not what Solomon is saying. What he is saying is that financial wisdom requires you to be intentional about building beyond a single source. And this is incredibly practical. Think about what happens to most people when they lose their job, when the one client pulls out, when the one product stops selling, when the one income source dries up. Everything collapses because they built on one foundation, and when that foundation shifted, there was nothing else holding up the structure. But when you have multiple streams, a primary income, a side business, investments, real estate, a digital product, whatever it looks like for your specific gifting and your season, when one stream faces a drought, the others keep flowing. That is not just financial strategy, that is biblical wisdom. And here is what I love about this principle. Solomon was an entrepreneur in the truest sense. He had trading ships, he had agriculture, vineyards, orchards, livestock. He had international business partnerships. He had intellectual property. People literally paid him for his wisdom. He was doing things we would call consulting and speaking and writing today. He understood that a wealthy life is not built on one income, it is built on an ecosystem of income. Now, you don't need to do all of those things, but I want you to ask yourself, are you building an ecosystem or are you entirely dependent on one source? Because if one stream is all you have, one disruption is all it takes. Here is the practical application. Start by identifying what your gifts, your skills, your knowledge, and your experience are. Because I have seen so many people who are sitting on income streams they haven't even activated yet, the expertise they have from their 9 to 5, the hobby that could become a product, the knowledge they have that others would pay to learn, Solomon leveraged everything he had, and so can you. Secret number 4, delayed gratification and self-control. Okay, I need everyone to really hear this next one, because this might be the one that is quietly destroying the most financial potential in the most people. Secret number 4, delayed gratification and self-control. Proverbs 21:17 says, "Whoever loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and olive oil will never be rich." And Proverbs 21:20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." Let me translate that into modern language. The wise save and invest. Fools spend everything they earn. And I know that sounds harsh, but I want to be real with you, because this is one of those things that nobody wants to talk about, but everybody needs to hear. We live in the most spend-driven culture that has ever existed on this planet. Every single platform, every single app, every single piece of content you consume is engineered to make you spend. One-click purchasing, buy now, pay later, instant delivery, monthly subscriptions you forgot you signed up for, flash sales, limited time offers. The entire consumer economy is built on one thing: getting your money out of your pocket and into someone else's as fast as possible before your self-control can kick in. And the people who are building wealth are the ones who have decided to opt out of that system, not entirely, not in a way that means you can't enjoy your life, but in a way that says, I am going to be intentional about where my money goes before I let it go anywhere. Here's the principle underneath the principle. Every dollar you spend today is a future dollar you don't have. And not just because it's gone, because of what that dollar could have become if it had been invested. That is delayed gratification. It is not about deprivation. It is about understanding that money has time value, and that the discipline of choosing tomorrow over today creates a tomorrow that is beyond what you can currently imagine. I want to tell you something. In the season when my husband and I were building the business, the year I talked about, our year of no, it wasn't just about saying no to events and obligations. It was financial too. We were making decisions about where every dollar was going. We were not spending on things that felt good in the moment if they weren't moving us toward the goal. And that discipline, that uncomfortable, not always fun discipline, is part of what created the conditions for the breakthrough. Because here's what self-control does. It keeps money in your hands long enough to actually work for you. Most people spend it before it ever gets the chance to compound, before it ever gets the chance to be invested, before it ever gets the chance to grow. Proverbs 25:28 says, "Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control." In ancient times, a city without walls was a city without defense. It was completely vulnerable to any attack. And that is exactly what a financial life without self-control looks like. Every impulsive purchase is a gap in the wall. Every unnecessary expense when you're in a building season is the enemy walking right through your defenses. So the practical step here is to get intentional with your money before it gets away from you. Budget, envelope method, automated savings. Whatever the system is, find one and stick to it. Because discipline today creates freedom tomorrow. That is not just a motivational phrase, that is a financial law. Secret number 5, strategic planning. All right, we are on secret number 5, and this one is for the people who are working hard but still feel like they're going in circles. Secret number 5, strategic planning. Proverbs 21:5, and I love this verse so much, says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit, but all hasty shortcuts lead to poverty." And Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans." Here's what Solomon understood that most people operating in this generation have completely lost. Effort without direction is just expensive motion. You can be the hardest working person in the room and still be broke if your hard work doesn't have a strategy underneath it. Think about it this way. Imagine you want to drive from Atlanta to Alabama. You get in the car, you're motivated, you're energized, you are ready to go, and you just start driving, fast, enthusiastically. But you didn't check the map. You didn't plan the route, you're just moving because movement feels like progress. How long before you realize you've been driving in the wrong direction, or going in circles, or that you've used up all your fuel before you got anywhere meaningful? That is what working without a strategic plan looks like. Motion that costs you but doesn't take you where you actually need to go. Solomon built the most sophisticated empire of his era. The temple in Jerusalem alone, one project, took 7 years and required meticulous planning, resource allocation, supply chain management, and leadership of tens of thousands of workers. That didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen through vibes and motivation. It happened through strategy. And here's the thing about planning in the kingdom context. It is not just business planning. It is asking God what the plan should be and then executing it with excellence. Proverbs 16:9 says, "In their heart a human plans their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." The human still plans. The human still makes the plan. But they submit that plan and those steps to God. What does this look like practically? It means you have a financial goal, a specific, written, time-bound goal, not, "I want to make more money." That is a wish. A goal sounds like, "I am building to X revenue by this date, and here are the 3 to 5 actions I am taking consistently to get there." That is a plan. It means you know your numbers, you know what's coming in, what's going out, what you're saving, what you're investing, what you're building toward. Because you cannot strategize around numbers you're not looking at. And it means you have a direction, a reason why. Because here's what I've learned about strategic planning. The plan is only as strong as the purpose behind it. When you know clearly why you are building, whether it's generational wealth, freedom for your family, the ability to give at a level that changes communities, that purpose is what keeps the strategy alive when execution gets hard. direction and structure. Turn effort into results. That is secret 5. Do not just work harder, work with a plan. Now, this next secret is one that I think especially affects people who have been raised to believe that asking for help is weakness, or that you should be able to figure it all out on your own, or that success is supposed to be a solo journey. And I want to dismantle that today because it is costing you. Secret number 6, leverage relationships and counsel. Proverbs 11:14 says, "Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety." Period. And Proverbs 27:17 says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." And here is the one that I think is the most misunderstood. Proverbs 13:20 says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Let me ask you a very honest question. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? And when you think about the financial conversations you have in those relationships, are they conversations that are expanding your thinking? Are they challenging you to build, to invest, to grow, to think bigger? Or are they conversations that are reinforcing scarcity, that are celebrating mediocrity, that are mocking ambition? Because here's the truth that Solomon knew. You become the average of your counsel, not just your company, your counsel. The voices you are letting speak into your financial life are shaping your financial life. And if those voices don't have what you're trying to build, they cannot give you the wisdom to build it. Now, this doesn't mean you abandon the people you love, but it does mean that you need to be intentional about who is speaking into your financial decisions. Who is advising your investments? Who is in your ear when you're making the big moves? Because bad advice is expensive, deeply, painfully, sometimes irreversibly expensive. But here's the flip side of this principle that I don't want you to miss. It's not just about what you receive, it's also about what you give. Solomon's relational equity, his international network, his partnerships with kings like Hiram of Tyre, those relationships were assets. They opened doors to resources, to trading routes, to timber and materials for building that he could not have accessed alone. His reputation and his relationships were part of his wealth-building infrastructure. And this is something I have experienced firsthand. So many of the opportunities that have come into my business, so many of the doors that have opened, have not come from algorithms or funnels alone. They have come from relationships, from people who knew me, who trusted me, who vouched for me, who opened a door that I could not have opened by myself. See, every meaningful relationship you build is a bridge to something you cannot yet see. The mentor who shortens your learning curve by years, the partner who brings what you lack, the community that holds you accountable, the network that refers, recommends, and resources you. These are not soft, feel-good additions to your wealth-building strategy. These are core, critical, biblical components of it. Stop trying to figure it all out alone. Seek counsel, invest in mentorship, build relationships with people who are where you want to be, collaborate instead of compete. And watch how fast doors open that you could have never knocked on by yourself. Secret number 7, reputation and integrity. And now we come to the 7th secret. And I saved this one for last because I believe with everything in me that this is the one that holds all the others together. This is the secret that most people in the world's financial system overlook entirely. And it is the one that makes wealth not just possible, but sustainable. Secret number 7, reputation and integrity. Proverbs 22:1 says, and please hear this, a good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Solomon, the man with more silver and gold than basically anyone else in history, is saying that your name is worth more than all of it. Your reputation is a more valuable asset than your bank account. Now, why would the wealthiest man who ever lived say that? Because he understood something that most people learn too late. He understood that trust is the currency that unlocks every other currency. Think about how business actually works in its purest form. Why does anyone buy from anyone? Because at some level, they trust them. They trust that what they're selling is what they say it is. They trust that the person or company will do what they promised. They trust the reputation behind the transaction. Remove that trust and no exchange happens. None. The entire economy, and I mean this literally, runs on trust. And so the person who has built a reputation for integrity, for honoring their word, for delivering excellence, for being honest even when it costs them, that person has built something that money literally cannot buy. And paradoxically, it is that thing, that trust, that name, that integrity, that ends up attracting the most money. Proverbs 10:9 says, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out." You will be found out. That is not a maybe. That is a when. And in the world we live in now, with information moving faster than at any point in human history, the cost of compromised integrity has never been higher. People are being found out faster, more publicly, more permanently than ever before. But here is the other side of that coin. The reward of sustained integrity has also never been higher. Because in a world where trust is scarce, where people are skeptical of everyone and everything, where they've been burned and misled and disappointed, someone who actually does what they say, who actually delivers what they promise, who actually operates with honesty and excellence, that person stands out. Dramatically, distinctly, financially. I want to tell you something about building this business. I could have taken shortcuts. There are shortcuts available in every industry. Ways to overpromise, ways to inflate results, ways to say what people want to hear to close more sales. And I chose not to, not because I didn't see the shortcuts, but because I understood that the most valuable thing I have is not a product or a system or a strategy. The most valuable thing I have is trust. My audience's trust, my clients' trust, my community's trust, and that trust, built day after day, delivered promise after promise, through consistency and honesty and excellence, that trust is what has created results that no ad budget or hack could have manufactured. See, integrity is not just a moral choice. For Solomon, integrity was a financial strategy because a name that people trust attracts partners. A reputation built on excellence attracts premium opportunities. A character known for reliability attracts the kind of long-term relationships that turn into generational wealth. Proverbs 28:20 says, "A faithful person will be richly blessed." Richly blessed. That is the promise attached to faithfulness and integrity, not just blessed, richly blessed. And so, as you build, whether you're building a business, a career, an investment portfolio, a brand, build it with your name attached. Build it in a way you would not be ashamed to have in the light. Build it in a way that honors God and honors the people you serve. Because your name will outlast your income, your reputation will outlast your revenue. And a good name, as Solomon said, is worth more than great riches. Okay, so let's bring all 7 secrets together because this is important. This is not 7 random ideas. This is a system. A biblical, tested, proven system that the wealthiest man who ever lived used to build an empire that the world still talks about thousands of years later. Secret 1. Wisdom before wealth. Upgrade your thinking before you try to upgrade your income. The mind that attracts money must come before the money itself. Secret 2. Diligence creates wealth. Consistent, faithful, daily effort compounded over time is the actual engine of wealth. Not luck, not a viral moment, not a shortcut. Diligence. Secret 3. multiple income streams. Stop relying on one source. Build an ecosystem. Diversify with intentionality so that no single disruption can take everything. Secret 4. Delayed gratification and self-control. Choose discipline today for freedom tomorrow. Keep your money long enough to let it work. Secret 5. Strategic planning. Effort without direction is expensive motion. Get a plan. Know your numbers. Execute consistently. Secret 6. Leverage relationships and counsel. Walk with the wise and become wise. Build bridges, seek counsel, collaborate. The right relationships compress your timeline dramatically. Secret 7. Reputation and integrity. Your name is your most valuable financial asset. Protect it, build it, honor it, and watch how it opens doors that nothing else can. So here's what I want you to do today. Not next Monday, not after you finish watching the rest of the internet. Today, pick the one secret out of these 7 that you know is your weakest area. Be honest with yourself. Is it that you've been chasing money instead of wisdom? Is it that you've been inconsistent? Is it that you've been spending instead of investing? Is it that you've been trying to figure it all out alone? Whatever it is, identify it, name it, write it down, because the gap between where you are financially and where you want to be is almost always not a resource problem. It is a wisdom gap, a strategy gap, a discipline gap, and you just got 7 keys to close it. Comment Solomon below if you are walking away from this video with a new understanding of how biblical wealth actually works. I want to see it down there. I want to know this landed. Solomon's secrets are not secrets because they're hidden. They're secrets because most people won't apply them. But you now know. And knowing without applying is just information. Applying what you know, that is where transformation happens. That is where wealth is built. That is where the life that God has already promised you begins to become the life that you're actually living. So take the wisdom, apply the secrets, build with diligence, plan with strategy, guard your integrity, and watch how God collapses what you thought would take 10 years into something that happens in far less time than you ever imagined possible. Your wealthy life isn't coming to rescue you. It is coming as the reward of your faithfulness to these principles. So start today. Walk in wisdom, build in silence, and let the results speak.